So this weekend, Justice League came out and it is dividing audiences. So I wanted to talk with someone that had a very different impression than I did. So I kind of liked some of the previous DCEU movies and I kind of didn't like Justice League. So I wanted to talk with someone that had a different opinion.
Yeah.
Who are you and what was your take?
So my name is Larry and I am from LCScreenTalk, and I liked the Justice League more than almost every other DCEU film to this point.
So luckily, he happened to be in town here in Austin for, was it Wizarding World?
Yeah, Wizard World.
Wizard World Comic Con, and so it gives us the opportunity to talk superhero movies together on here. So what's your just general impression of Justice League? And contrasting a little bit, real quick version with the previous DCEU movies.
Yeah, I think that overall I enjoyed the little bit lighter of a tone.
Mm-hmm.
I think that obviously people get tired of fun being thrown out, but I think it was definitely more fun than anything else in the DCEU up to this point. It definitely had some flaws, especially as we got into that last act, but overall I felt it was more cohesive as a final product personally.
Okay, so for me, my kind of take on it was I appreciate Zack Snyder's crazy, wacky vision, and so I can watch his previous movies as Zack Snyder movies, in which case they're going to be dark, they're kind of cynical, and by kind of cynical, they're really cynical, and I can appreciate them as that. As adaptations of DC characters, disappointing. As Zack Snyder films, I can enjoy quite a bit in them. And so with Justice League, what it felt like to me was WB reacting to the negative feedback, and so they're like, hey, rein it in, Zach. Hey, we want to put more jokes in there. And then even as it went along, he had to step out. Joss Whedon stepped in, and it just kept turned into kind of Zack Snyder, kind of Joss Whedon, a whole lot of WB reactionaryism, and that's what I saw. Like literally saw, just from the look of it, it looked different, it looked off, and you could see kind of the shifts in things. And so that's the piece to me that I could respect what he was going for with the previous films. With this one, it certainly more entertaining. And the example I've given for other people, it's kind of like if you got a great piece of steak that someone cooks poorly and then dumps a bunch of sauce on top of it, spices it up, so it still kind of tastes good because of the sauce. It is a great cut of meat, but they didn't cook it very well. Yeah. That's what this movie was like to me. Great characters. There is definitely some entertainment, some stuff to enjoy in it, but at the end of the day, I don't think it was cooked very well. With that said, what were your favorite things about it? What was the good?
So for the good for me, I think all of the characters were done pretty well. I do think that some of them don't get as much screen time as maybe you'd hope, but that's kind of the problem with the way DC decided to set up their universe, is doing big movie before we really got the other movies, so we had to rush to like introduce everybody in this 2-hour span and get them all going. But I thought that Ray Fisher was actually surprisingly good as Cyborg. I wasn't really expecting to care about Cyborg.
Right. Like Cyborg.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I enjoyed Ezra Miller's take. He did a couple of goofy things that were a little bit much, but I thought it was funny overall. I thought Jason Momoa really reinvented.
You happened to have met Jason Momoa yesterday, didn't you? So you might be biased.
I might be biased, but it was a nice reinvention of a character that has been maligned and made fun of for who knows how long, and now he's like cool and badass.
Yeah, and if you want to like take Aquaman and convert him into awesome Jason Momoa, that's a good pick.
And a good logical step. It's like a Pacific Islander makes good sense for a guy who dwells in the water. Yeah,
that's where you watch it, and it didn't feel like they changed into just this whole retcon. It felt like, no, this makes sense. This character is what this guy would be. This guy at the ocean and stuff.
I think maybe that's why he didn't get backlash, like how they've done with Fantastic Four, just changing the race. It's because, they changed his race, but to something that probably makes more sense than the white blonde dude that they depicted.
In green pants and an orange shirt.
Woo! But even, I thought Batman, I know Ben Affleck is trying to get out, but I thought his depiction of Batman and Bruce, I guess it's kind of there. I don't know. They didn't do much with that.
It's the nature of it. He's not really being... you see him without his mask on, but he's always Batman. He's not going back to the city or to any of that stuff.
Yeah, we don't really see that. Gal Gadot is great. I think she really has taken to the character well.
So in all of that, the cast, there was no one in the cast that I disliked. All of them were great.
Very little bit of Lois Lane.
Yes.
Always a good thing in these movies because she's been done terribly.
It has been a weird take on her.
Horrible Lois Lane.
We'll get into it a little bit, but even the scenes she is in, those felt like the most reshot, like processed looking ones of the movie. But we'll get into that a little bit. But I mean, the cast, their rapport with each other.
I thought their rapport, was great. I also think the writing for their dialogue was really strong. All of the character moments themselves were really strong, and I think that maybe that's why it is a little bit Suicide Squad-esque, because I think that's what Suicide Squad excelled was characters being written together strong.
Yes. And a lot of things about this movie felt very Suicide Squad to me, and kind of the way it plays out.
Yeah.
And strengths and weaknesses. Other positives with it.
So other positives, I also think that, personally, I think, well, one, I loved the opening Batman scene. It made me more than anything actually want another solo Batman movie, which I know is coming. But I was like, if they can do like a darker, it was almost like a horror film for Batman. That's what I want, actually. It's like a horror-esque Batman movie. Because he like swings around in the shadows and like stalks you. And we got that at the beginning of this film. So I was like, so awesome. And then I think most of the action personally was choreographed well enough.
Right.
Again, this is leaving CGI itself out.
Yes.
That is not a positive. But I think the action was at least shot well.
Right.
It had a Zack Snyder feel for the most part. I mean, we had like slow-mo bullets bouncing off the ground.
Well, and if you think, what does Zack Snyder actually do well? That you can't, like, you might not like his specific style, but it's not like the cut-fu, shaky cam stuff. Like, he knows how to choreograph well, shot in a way that you see what's happening, and you might think he overuses slow-mo. That would be fair enough. I don't think he does. I think I really like it. It's kids who like bringing a comic book to the screen, which is what he's done so much of his career, and I think he does it well. And so, the action I thought was handled very nicely, and some cool shots in there with the way it's done, and giving everyone kind of their moment to have a scene where you're like, oh man, that was awesome when Aquaman did that, when Batman swung from the thing, and when Wonder Woman slid on her knees and chopped the people up. It gave everyone kind of a moment of action.
Yeah. And I think that there are some great, at least moments. Like, I think the Aquaman Wonder Woman lasso of truth moment.
Yes, that was
amazing.
That was great.
It so much.
Well, and it gave them an excuse. That felt very Whedon-esque to me. I don't know if that was one of his scenes or not, but that's sort of, he's very good at finding the plot device that makes sense to have the overly sentimental moment. Yeah. Because there's no excuse for how cheesy and sentimental that scene was. And it was like, is this, are you guys serious? And then he stands up and his last one, you go, yes, you earned it. You did it. Like, that's perfect.
So
what you
had like Batman calling back to like trying to like so like dude,
so that was great. So for me, the humor all kind of worked for me. There might have been a couple things where it's like, it's trying a little bit too hard. But when you got a movie that's got quip throughout, you're going to have a couple that don't land. But overall, really landed. I liked the quirky, neurotic version of the Flash. And that it didn't feel like, it felt like a different interpretation of the same character. It didn't feel like a totally different character from what we see on TV. Yeah. It felt like CW does it like this, and Ezra Miller did it like this, and both are true to the character, and they make sense that these would be two different interpretations that both are equally worthy of existing. Yeah. Any final positives before we move on to negatives?
Oh, I think that is it.
So, actually, I got one. You kind of mentioned it, but I think the characterizations. I think this is one where, tonally speaking, they got some characterizations right that people thought they got really wrong in previous movies.
Yes.
And so, angry, sad Superman, that you don't see any of the hope that his chest means. Yeah. This movie you get to see. Yeah. He shows up, and from that opening scene where he's joking with kids, you go, right. Yeah, right. Like this, like if you'd put 2 or 3 scenes like this in Batman v Superman, you could have lifted it so much higher and earned the brooding. Yeah. Because you show the two sides to a person, but when they didn't show like that opening scene with him joking with kids, or the way he acted the whole movie, really. Yeah. Well, not the part where he's punching people when he's confused, but besides that, just he's Superman. He's acting like classic traditional Superman, and then likewise where you get Batman and I might go into more negative on the characterization of Batman in this one, but that he actually feels the consequence of like, oh crap, like the guy that could have been the savior of the earth, I was trying to kill him. Like, what did I just do? What was I thinking? Yeah. And so it somewhat resolves that. So characterizations, I think they got right and fixed some things that they'd broken.
I also really like that Batman was getting hurt and felt the consequences of these battles, because he's the one that's only a guy. Like, he's only a rich guy. And everybody else is like, no, Wonder Woman can get hit over and over, but if he gets hit once by Steppenwolf, he's done. Like,
and that they kept making cracks the I'm rich joke. Yeah. That in the battle where they first go in with the mother box thing, he's like jumps in the ship, is like, what am I gonna do? Punch these demons? So he jumps in the ship and starts mowing guys down with machine guns, and you go, that makes sense. Yeah. He's not mowing humans down with machine guns anymore. He's shooting demons with machine guns.
That's the thing. I don't think we had exorbitant amounts of like casualties, like we did in Man of Steel, where they take down a whole village. And
then in this one, to the characterizations, they almost have a scene in it that exists for the purpose of being like, we heard you. Superman is literally flying a building out of here on his back because he doesn't want people to die. So he's saving people. They're like, Flash, you don't know how to fight people. Save people. Yeah. And they do a bunch of that stuff that fixes... I think the most legitimate criticism of just the tone of Batman v Superman was that it wasn't heroic. Yeah. It was cynical towards heroism. So Batman, who should be doing heroic things, is killing people and trying to kill another hero. Superman is doing heroic things and like sad about it. And then there's like news reports about how like, do we need this guy? Like, how dare he save this person? Who's he to choose who lives and who dies? This movie just went, we're heroes. We're going to be heroic. We're going to like Flash. We're going to save as many lives. We're going to fly buildings out of here. We're going to save the earth. Yeah. And it celebrates heroism.
We're going to have fun doing it.
We're going to have fun doing it.
They all enjoyed it.
With that said, moving on to the negative. And I'll just kind of kick this one off. Okay. The big thing for me is that it felt so much like just a reaction to what came before. And that the WB saw the reaction to Batman v Superman, and they went, oh, man, it wasn't jokey enough. It was too dark. Man. All right, Zach, we need you to throw jokes in there. We need you to throw this in there. We need you to throw this in there. Ooh, this one was too long, and we want to make sure we get a lot of showing, so this one we want it under 2 hours. And your movies are too dark. And so you watch the early trailers for this one, and it's the final battle's at nighttime, and then you see what the movie we got. It's daytime, and it's like a red-orange sky that looks like where we're at right now. Horrible. Yeah, and so everything felt like a reaction as opposed to a cohesive vision. Like like we used the word cohesive earlier, and I think there's ways in which this is far more cohesive than Batman v Superman. But I think when it comes to a vision for what a director is trying to accomplish, the vision itself, I think, is done by committee.
Yeah, so for negatives for me, I think it's because I'm not a Superman fan. Okay. So I understand that it did feel like classic Superman. I just have never really been a fan of classic Superman all that much. I think Superman was so overpowered. I'm sorry. So like the movie just becomes exponentially less fun and enjoyable for me when Superman arrives. I don't know. In like a lot of my problems in the film are like logic problems. So it just, the slogan is like, you can't save the world alone. It's like what they have on all the posters. Yes. But then Superman comes out, two demigods can't hold him. Like Wonder Woman and Aquaman together can't even like hold him down. He's as fast, if not faster than the Flash. Obviously, the only thing Batman can do that he can't is buy his mom's house back. Like, and then Cyborg. I mean, I guess Cyborg is needed to like take those apart. So maybe it should have just been Superman and Cyborg, because even when we get to that final battle, like Wonder Woman is super struggling. Her and Aquaman both are really struggling to fight Steppenwolf together. And then he comes and he's just like knocking him out and pushing him around and doing it. I'm like, oh my God. he's so over. Like, what's the point of what's the point of these other heroes? He can't be that much stronger than everyone, or does it make sense for there to be a Justice League to me, personally? Sorry, that's a weird problem I have. I know a lot of people are loving it, but
to a certain extent, if you're watching the movie and you go, and that's the way it plays out, everyone's struggling. Yeah, Superman showed up. We can just sit down and watch the show. Because even the way it plays out there's a heroic moment for the Flash. He's going to save people. And so there's this car going down the road, and then it's played for a joke, like Superman's going to beat Steppenwolf, and he's carrying a building. And he does both. Yeah. Like, there was an opportunity there for Superman. You take out Steppenwolf, Wonder Woman, and
at least have
Aquaman, you're taking out parademons, and then Flash, you pull people out of here. And so everyone has their role. And Batman's standing there or something. I don't know. It's like making a documentary. I don't know.
He's like chilling in his car.
Yeah. He's trying to distract people and die.
He was going to kill himself. Like,
kind of out of nowhere. Like,
that throwaway weird kill himself.
But so they could have done something like that, but instead, the way they constructed it, constructed it in a way specifically to highlight Superman's better than everybody. Flash, that's cute that Ezra Miller run around, but Superman can just get it done. And they played it out so heavily. For me, it's one of the worst looking movies I've ever seen. So you mentioned that opening scene that I think I really should have liked it, but I was just watching it and I was like, this looks like, why does this look so off to me? And it just looked horrible. Yeah. And then you cut to some of the stuff we talked about, some of the clear reshoots with Lois like in an office, and then it's suddenly bright. And she looks different.
Stale lighting.
Yes, like
really sitcom-y.
Exactly. It feels like a TV show where it's like, just turn all the lights on so everything's well lit.
The dialogue became kind of TV-esque when Lois Lane came on too.
Right. Yeah. It just felt like Joss Whedon back writing Buffy dialogue or something like that. It's
Lois and Clark.
I actually watched an episode of Lois and Clark with my kids the other day. Went back in time a little bit.
Dean Cain was also here this weekend.
Oh, really? That's fun. But so it just felt like it looked bad to me. And then when you see stuff and you watch the trailers and they did a full night to daytime shift in what the look of things look like. The shots where they're in the cornfields that should look normal and natural. You look
natural lighting.
Zack Snyder's previous movies that had this really cool Americana look to them. That they put that in the trailers. It was like, that looks really cool what he's going for. You look at these ones and it just looks like they went nuts with the filters, or they were on a green screen and they put CGI corn. Like, I don't know just every shot I looked at and I went, something's not right. And then thinking of things not looking right, the CGI and Mustache Gate, 2017.
It did. I was part of the people that was like looking at him when they first brought him back onto the screen. Just like, he looks. Usually Henry Cavill is very handsome. Yes. He looks very strange. Yeah. What? And I was like, it's because they did weird digital stuff and it looked. What did they do to his jaw?
Like, I was looking. I was like, what? And his nose sometimes looked off to me. Everything looked off about him.
I was like, Disney's over here, like, really proud of their people, which aren't quite there, like, making of the faces of people, but, apparently they're a lot closer there than DC is, because I don't think it would have looked like that if Disney had done it, but, no, the CG was just, all of that orange stuff, that entire last battle just looked bad. Steppenwolf, for the most part, looked bad. Like, he very rarely looked good. They had some very clear green screen shots, which I think is alarming. This movie has almost a reported budget of $300 million, and I can tell that like Superman is standing in front of a green screen, or there were several shots like that I was like, oh my gosh.
So like there's a scene where Batman's talking to Aquaman, and he's about to go back into the ocean, and he's standing in water, and it keeps cutting back and forth between like a wide shot of him standing in actual water and a close-up of him on a green screen somewhere. I was like,
this is insane.
Is this real? Like, how is this a movie that's $300 million budget and you're doing stuff that I'm just some dummy on YouTube and I'm going, I know not to do that.
Like, what?
Like, how did this happen?
It looked bad.
And then I think one of the thing that the look of it being so off to me was a problem, and then Steppenwolf just was.
Yeah.
The movie had the simplicity of the plot of the Avengers minus the charm of someone like Loki. Where Loki's like a compelling villain of himself. Steppenwolf is just, I conquer planets.
Yeah.
Mother, I've found you. Let's conquer the planet.
That mother thing was weird.
And so there was just Steppenwolf. He felt like he should have been the enforcer villain. And then there was like the brain personality villain. And so they have to battle Steppenwolf, but then there's this other guy off to the side. And they didn't do that. And so it felt very much like Suicide Squad, where you've got like this army of people that are just cannon fodder, and then a weird main villain that you're like, what? Like, how did you... This is the best you got? Like, I don't understand why this is... How did you get this... How did you think that this was worthy of the Justice League movie when you've got all the things you could possibly do here? Yeah. Even in the movie, I'm more compelled by that Lex Luthor that I don't care for all that much, and Deathstroke that we only get for 30 seconds.
Yeah. I guess I personally am just kind of like, with Steppenwolf. He's not really a negative or a positive.
Okay.
A lot of times I don't really mind just big baddies. Because I think they established at least how powerful he was enough that I was like, okay, like these people can't take him. Like Batman, what are you going to do? Like
right.
you can't take him on by yourself. You are accurate. And... it set up what could have been and should have been like cool mini battles, but that's kind of a negative for me, is that they were letdowns. Like Wonder Woman did so much to create Themyscira as this cool, these awesome warrior women, and they just looked nearly incompetent when Steppenwolf came. Like they were prepared, like they knew he was coming, so they got ready. But I was just like, oh. Really?
Right.
And then,
Aqua people?
The water people. I'm blanking. I'm sorry. They looked even more incompetent because, I mean, they literally had Amber Heard to the rescue. Like, she was the line of defense, her and one other guy.
Right.
And it's like, what?
Right, and so you're watching it and you kind of feel like each one of these things should have been better than it was. So you should go... Amazons versus Steppenwolf, I should be like, that's an iconic, amazing sequence that it just turned into, hey, it's like a game of polo. Or is that the one where they're on the horses?
Yeah, they're just like,
throwing it down the road.
I was like, they set up some cool things. Like, I thought it was cool, like, the choreographedness of the Amazons. So, like, they're getting those things down. They have, like, they do have systems in place, which I thought was cool. But I'm like, I don't even think they killed a single parademon. Like, I don't think they did anything. Like, and we had that weird kind of shoehorned death in there. Like, are we supposed to care about
who is this? I think my wife actually turned to me and she's like...
They're making it a big deal.
Why do I care that person died? Yeah. So there was... likewise, we get Superman Returns. Yeah. And so you get the Justice League versus Superman for a sequence. And it didn't feel like that. No. It felt like that should have been like if you're going to do that, if you're going to have Superman comes back, he's confused and battles the Justice League, that should be iconic. That should feel as iconic as Batman v Superman, which you watch Batman v Superman and you go, oh, the iconic imagery and Batman's in the robot suit and he's battling. Yeah. And then this one, it's just, he punches Batman in the chest and... It
was done, like, really strange in him, like, at first trying to, like, he's still processing. And then there's this weird kind of MacGuffin of Cyborg's, like, suit just malfunctioning on him randomly, like, and he can't control it.
Yeah.
That just is just put in this movie to, like, cause weird tension.
Right, yeah.
Like, they bring it up with Aquaman, so Aquaman now is like, are you on our side or what? And then they bring it up with Superman, so that Superman decides to attack them. Like, Superman was still not really going to attack. Yeah, he was like,
It's just unnecessary.
And then, you throw in a MacGuffin of this, like, I'm going to shoot you, but not really.
Right, and so, it felt disappointing in that. And then from there, we got our final battle, and there's a few things in it that I thought were really cool. And everyone gets, like, a moment that I thought was really cool, but there wasn't, like, there was nothing like the warehouse sequence in Batman v Superman where I was like, I love this sequence. As any issues I have with the movie, this sequence I thought was handled really well, crafted really nicely. And then we get to this one, and there just wasn't an equivalent of that forming. Yeah,
with that end battle, again, it would have been so much better without that orange filter.
Yes.
Like, the funness with Aquaman would have, like, actually resonated. Like, it should have been pretty cool seeing him, like, literally ride a parademon and, like, surfboard on it. but it just looked so bad that you're like, oh, this is actually more like funny unintentionally.
Right. Well, and I think part of the problem is even when you go to an orange filter in daytime, everything's bright, and so things look like when you put it in the dark and it's dim, it covers up CGI. You can just process it a lot better than you can when everything's so well lit that you go, "What am I? This looks funny. Why does this look like this?" Well, because Jason Momoa is not actually riding on a demon through a building. And it just highlights how bad it is, and it's ugly. So you, as we said at the beginning, you prefer Justice League over Batman v Superman. Using contrasting language, what is it for you that just definitively makes Justice League better?
Yeah, so I think that overall, I think it has a higher watchability factor for me. I would rather, like, if you were to say which one do you want to watch, it's going to be the Justice League.
It's interesting because that's the exact opposite for me. Like I find myself drawn to rewatch Batman v Superman, and I left it. It's not like I left it. I was like, this is amazing. This was so much fun. Yeah. But then I rewatched. Was like, there's things in here I find compelling, and that's because I actually do rewatch it, and then I watch Justice League, and I went in. I went expecting because Batman, Superman, Justice League. That's easy for me to like that.
Yeah.
And so that's for me. I was surprised at how much I was like, I don't know that I want to rewatch this. Wow. So, sorry, cut you off.
No, you're good. But I do think as just a story of getting from A to B, this person has a clear mission to do this, and then thus our heroes have like a clear counter mission to stop this person. It at least has a through line.
Yes.
Whereas I think Batman v Superman does not.
Right.
Like, there is no through line. There are a bunch you are really zigzagging to get to like the end point.
Just last night I was talking with someone in the comment section because I said that about Batman v Superman. Like, the plot is so convoluted and plotty and complex. He's like, well, what's hard to understand about it? It's like, no, it's not that I don't understand it. There's too many parts.
There's too much.
It's Lex Luthor frames people, and the government tie into it, and the CIA ties into it, and Lois Lane ties into it, and then we're paying off the locals to lie to Congress, and there's a criminal trial. There's two different politicians, and you're like, and there's the prison sequence, and someone's shanked in prison, and there's so much stuff.
Yeah, then Wonder Woman is randomly like walking around, like taking a break from the Louvre, like.
Yeah, and she's taking a break because she's looking for a picture, and she just happens to be doing this at the same time everything else is going on.
What?
And you just go, what?
And then you have the love story between Lois Lane and Superman and Clark Kent. And
it's trying to like explore, does the world need a Superman?
Yeah.
And doing that through the perspective of Lex Luthor and Batman and a sad Superman. Plus we got to work Aquaman in there and the Flash in there and Doomsday. Why don't we do the death of Superman as well?
It's so much, and I just don't think I clearly don't think it juggled them well.
Right.
I think it pretty much dropped the ball on almost all of them. There are a couple I think that it holds intact. The majority, I also hated Lex Luthor. See, Steppenwolf is in a category of...
Gotcha, okay.
He was just there. Like, I don't really hate him. He's there. So Lex Luthor is in the category of, like, oh my gosh, like, what are these choices? Like, the acting choices, the choices the director gave him, the, like, Jolly Rancher, like, it's like, what?
Did you happen to watch Smallville?
No, I didn't.
So it had a great rendition of the rich businessman that's behind the scenes evil Lex Luthor on that show with Michael Rosenbaum. Just did a great job on that show. And then when they were deciding the casting, everyone was like, get Bryan Cranston. Bryan Cranston, we know that we can do the charming guy, but he also could be terrifying. We know that from Breaking Bad. So everyone was thinking that, and then we get Jesse. We get like, what? And I think that for me, like, if I just view it as he's not Lex Luthor, then it's like, this is, I don't dig this, but I don't hate it. But when you're thinking of all the things you could do for Lex Luthor, why would you pick this? Why would you do this direction?
Weird hair. Like, I don't
yeah, like so many odd choices in it. All right, so for me, if I were to switch that, like, what is it about me that makes me prefer Man of Steel and Batman v Superman over these ones? I just felt like it was an actual director's vision. He was trying to do something. Like, he went, I want to do this ambitious film that's about what if Superman did show up and there was a Batman in this world and there were people like Lex Luthor in this world. How would they respond? How would the government respond? And so he's trying to bring all these ideas together, and a bunch of people are trying to kill Superman. And so you could see where he went, like, what do you do? That's the plot point to where you bring Doomsday into it. And so then all right, let's really explore these big ideas. And so it has an ambition to it that kind of makes me grade it a little bit on a curve. Whereas with Justice League, it's a invasion story. Generic Conqueror shows up, so we need to get together to stop Generic Conqueror. And oh, by the way, we've got a guy maybe we can bring back from the dead. He's even more powerful. Oh, now we've got him. Let's fight him. And so it's just so straightforward that I needed Steppenwolf to be more awesome. And I shouldn't have technical issues with it of like, this looks bad and the CGI is bad if you're going to do a story so straightforward. And that's for me, I just can respect what they were doing before. And I wonder if I did see the Zack Snyder version of it, I don't think I would like it that much more, because I think that WB was interfering far too early on, that causing stuff that frustrated me with it. Yeah. But in general, that's where my take would be. So, any final thoughts you got on Justice League?
Yeah, I think like I said, I think it's pretty fun. I have, sorry, I have like one more small little nitpick negative.
Okay.
So I know there's big controversy over just costuming in general when it comes to Wonder Woman and the Amazons. But I think that there's a problem. So Zack Snyder, I think, likes to take people's clothes off, whether they're men or women.
Men and women.
So this is, I don't know that it's like really a sexist thing. It's just a logic thing for me that drives me a little bit nuts. So with the Amazons, it doesn't make sense. Like, if you can defend it not being all that sexist, fine. But does it make sense for beings that are not immortal to have this exposed when they're going into battle? It doesn't make sense. And that's, when you look at 300 also does not make sense. But then, like, Superman. So when they bring him back, I also didn't really like the way they brought him back. But at least they gave him some things. They also negated the end of Batman v Superman, actually, though, because they had those, like, rocks rising. Yeah. Clearly, I mean, Superman, they established, was, like, dead at the beginning of this. So what was that? Rocks floating stuff. So they resurrect Superman. He shoots up out of the, like, coffin into the sky. And then it turns into a Hulk situation, like the old school Hulk. The new ones, they all go there more. Right. He loses his, like, coat, his shirt, his socks, and his shoes, but his pants are pretty much intact. And I'm like, why did you strip him down? Other than to, like, just, hey, I'm Henry Cavill, look at my wonderful bod. Like, Aquaman is the only one in here who makes sense. He's not in danger. He's going into the water. He takes off his shirt. Everybody else, I'm just like, what? And then I also was a little bit bothered in general, like, with Lois Lane. So her big problem is that she is completely sidelined and has, like, almost no autonomy in these movies. Like, she's not really a good reporter. She does nothing in any of these Superman movies, and it's annoying. I'm like, really? I mean, we just talked about Lois and Clark. Right. They got Lois Lane a whole lot better way back. Even the original Superman, the Lois Lane depiction is, like, better and more progressive than this Lois Lane. But then in this film, for her to literally put her whole career on a complete, like, her whole life now is, like, dependent on this one man, and it just was like, what? Like, what are we doing? Are we like, actually, every woman in his life turned to be dependent on him because his mom lost her house. Because, I mean, you can understand, maybe she's distraught, so she's not giving up with the payments, but it's like, oh, she now has nowhere to live. And it's like, oh. And I think that's where it gets deeper with, like, female depictions in these Zack Snyder films. It's not simply about Amazons having their stomach showing. It's like, when you look at all of them, yes, I think he did well with Wonder Woman for the most part herself. Almost went emo with her, though. They almost took that, like, weird emo Man of Steel Superman route with her, like, again, also, her just being so distraught for 90 years or something. Get over it, Wonder Woman. But yeah.
I mean, they had like a weekend vacation together in Wonder Woman. It's not like they were married for 20 years.
What? You are still so distraught that you can't be a superhero? Like, you just save people on the fly? But yeah, anyway, that's my last rant.
All right, so there you have it. 2 different takes on the DCEU, as well as one person that kind of liked Batman v Superman a little bit more than Justice League, and someone on the flip side of that. Tell us again, where can we find you on the internet?
Yeah, so you can find me here on YouTube, as well as on Twitter and Instagram, all with the handle L as in lion, C as in cat, and then Screen Talk.
All right, and if you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I do movie reviews, TV reviews, ranking videos, but the key thing is I don't want to just talk about movies. I want to talk about movies with you. So join me in the comment section. Let's have a lively conversation, and thank you so much for watching.